Time for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network. Sam McDowell, he's from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Going to give you our 5 biggest reasons. We're going to go do a little draft, prioritize here. We'll be drafting our 5 most important reasons as to why the Kansas City Chiefs are watching these playoffs on TV. Not participating, but watching the playoffs on TV. What are the reasons? It may shock you. It may not. I don't know. I don't know what these guys have planned. We'll find out. It's coming up right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Chiefs watching a great round of playoffs in the opener, at least until we got to the Monday night game. That kind of fell short of anyone's joys. But nonetheless, they are not in the playoffs. We're going to break down the reasons why, our top 15. We're going to do it like a draft. That way, best gets first and so on and so forth. You got to put your most important reasons up at the top. Jeff, we like to give you the honors. 1, because alphabetically you come first. That seems to make the most sense. Sam will go second. I will go third. Don't take my reason. Okay? Don't take my reason. Isn't that what everybody does in a draft? You got to be all pissed off like when somebody takes yours right in front of you. By the way, we always like to talk about what we learned and going through the exercise. Learn anything, Jeff, from putting this list together?
A lot of reasons. Wasn't hard to find reasons. This was like this was like the 1983 NFL QB draft class of reasons for why a team went south. So no shortage of ideas.
Lots of quarterbacks to choose in 83, and the Chiefs found Todd Blackledge. Sam, what about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, same. I mean, theoretically, in order for us to each come up with 5 and be sure that you don't have overlap with the other guys, you need to have 15. And that sounds like a tall task. And then you start going through it, and you can come up with 15 pretty easily.
Yeah, it was. It was not hard. I'm with you. It was a pretty easy task. I found them just flowing. Like you were like, sometimes we grind on these things, and you're like, okay, let me think of something. Okay, I got that. Now let me think. This was like type, return, type, return. Type, return. It was not hard to push our way through it. So
I mean, the rankings were the only difficult part. So I'm interested to see, since we're drafting these based on kind of next best, I'm interested to see how we rank them and how we draft them.
Okay, I like it. Let's get started. Where do you want to begin, Jeff? What's the number 1 reason why the Kansas City Chiefs are watching these playoffs on TV?
Stars didn't play like stars. And I've argued this for a long time here, that the biggest reason for this dynasty lasting as long as it did was because when they got into difficult situations, when they got into seasons where everything wasn't going the way it used to go, that you could rely on Patrick Mahomes being great, Travis Kelce being great, and Chris Jones being great. They were good. Compared to the rest of the league, they were not great. Mahomes had one of his worst seasons. Was in the bottom third of the league in terms of passer rating. Kelce, for a 36-year-old tight end, good numbers, but certainly receiving yards was second or third lowest of his career. And then Chris Jones, we know, game after game, not making plays that could have been made, huge moments where he could have been a difference maker, not doing that. I just felt like those three guys had to play exceptionally well for this team not to be where they are, and they didn't do that.
They did not. The Stars did not play like stars. I think that's a good one. I mean, it belongs up high, and you know, you can even do it. You know, well, I don't want. I was going to phrase it another way, but that might take away one of the other ones. We could branch it over. So, all right, let's go to Sam. What's your top dog on this list?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there will be some overlap in this,
Sure.
but you know, to be specific about mine, they collapsed in the fourth quarter frequently. You know, this has long been this team's secret sauce. Their cheat code is they're never out of a game because 15 always, from whatever's going wrong in a game, if the team's at its worst, he finds his best. And instead, they were the opposite. They turned their best performances into their worst fourth quarters. With a month left to go in the season, this team was still number one in the NFL in yards per drive. They still had reached the red zone more often than any team in the NFL, yet they were 6-6. And you look at why, it's because they were terrible in the fourth quarter. They were 27th in the NFL in yards per play in the fourth quarter. Mahomes finished 36th out of 38 qualifying quarterbacks in fourth quarter completion percentage this year. And to me, a team with this kind of experience, literally more experience than any of their peers, to choke in the big moments, it's just baffling. I mean, you could have told me this team would have missed the playoffs, and I would not have told you this would have been one of the reasons why, that this would have been on my list, and it's number one on my list.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, you know, all the close games last year. I mean, how do we look at it? Do we look at it and say that they were, I mean, like, I don't believe in luck. I mean, most people be like, well, they were lucky last year and they were unlucky this year. Like, do we say they're almost the same team as last year, or the fact that they were collapsing in the fourth quarter, is that the sign of a team that fell way off? I mean, how do you view it, Sam, to go from like those clutch moments always being clutch to now not even getting it done seemingly at any point?
Well, I think there's always a multitude of things that go into it, but to me, it speaks to the predictability that their offense had, because I think teams saw what they were going to run for three quarters or for 2 quarters, and they're able to stop it in the fourth quarter. And we talked, the most evident example was that Chargers game. The Chargers looked like they knew what was coming offensively from the Chiefs. And I think these stats speak to it, is that the Chiefs have certain things they like to go to when the game's on the line. And when they went to them this year, those things failed them consistently. I mean, they dropped passes for sure. I mean, you know, Jeff, when he mentioned Travis Kelce, rather than mentioning his numbers to fit his narrative, he should have mentioned that 3 times he dropped a pass that turned out to be an interception, twice in the fourth quarter.
Well, we might get to that.
I could have gotten into that too, but I want to save time for everybody else.
But my point is, like, it's a multitude of reasons, but I do think the most glaring thing is I would be asking myself, if the Chiefs, was I too predictable? Did teams know it was coming based on the way the first initial 3 quarters went?
Yep, I think that's fair. And I think the answer is yes, they were very predictable. We've talked a lot about that. All right, I'll go with my first one, is Rashee Rice getting himself suspended for 6 games. You know, I think Rashee Rice, we've talked about it. I was not as big on Rashee Rice as some people were, but he's a very good football player, and it was a distraction they didn't need. It was an absence they didn't need. They had other injuries. And what would they have been if they had him on the ground running? And what we don't know is how much were they jerking around with the playbook, knowing, you know, did it disrupt camp? I mean, they finally knew that this was coming. He wasn't going to be there. Were they practicing they said they were practicing everything, and everybody just had to know it, and it was just normal business. Well, that didn't work, or the scheme was just stale, which we might get to later. But I do think that it created problems. I don't know that you could sit there in St. Joe and serve both masters. Here's the offense I want to be when he comes back, but here's the offense we are now. I don't think there's any doubt that hurt them beyond just not having the player, right? It also it left indecision and doubt about which direction to go offensively, whether you had him or not. And I think it was a massive part of the equation. It was unavoidable once he did what he did. You knew the suspension was coming, but I think it crushed the team. I mean, I think it was a really difficult thing for them to get beyond.
Well, plus you're missing Xavier Worthy for the first 3 games as well, as it turned out. So I mean, his absence looms even larger when that takes place, when the injury takes place.
Do they beat the Eagles if he plays?
Yes.
Jeff, do they beat the Eagles if Rashee Rice plays?
I'd say maybe. I mean, if you're just saying everything else,
maybe. We know maybe.
I just feel like so many things happened in the course of that game. I think the Eagles would have found another way to make another play to win the game.
No, I mean, I think you could say no. I mean, I don't think we know maybe. I think maybe. Listen, I'd go further.
I'm saying maybe's obvious. I'm just saying yes, it's maybe for sure, but we usually pick a side here.
Okay, I'll say no. I'll say no.
Okay,
the way the game's played out,
my point is I think there is no. Maybe says yes, he would have helped, but I don't know if it would have been enough. And then yes, it would have been enough. I think it would have been enough. I mean, listen, we don't know. Maybe he has channels his inner Kadarius Toney and knocks 3 balls into the air and they get beat even worse. We don't know what would have happened truly, but I think if he goes through training camp and then hits the ground, plays it with plays in the game against the Chargers and then plays against the Eagles, I do think they beat the Eagles. And I think everything could be different for this team. Everything could have been different if he was ready to go. I mean, it clearly, I'm a believer that teams are fragile, and when it starts going south, it snowballs, right? I think when it starts going bad, what got you there is not as bad as how bad you end up being, but it just starts to build on itself, and it starts to be exponential. And I think that definitely happened to this team, and it started.
I agree
with his ass not being ready to play, with him not being able to get in there. I think that was definitely a big part of it. All right, number 2 on your list, Jeff. What's your number 2 reason? Has anyone lost one that they had, by the way?
Yeah, I think Rashee was on all of our lists, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't make mine, so.
Okay.
I mean, he would have been in my
honorable mention.
I basically had put him down and anticipated that somebody else would pluck him. Yeah. As I'm certain what Jeff's number 2 reason is going to be is my number 2, by the way.
Okay. All right. Let's have it.
Offense got stale. Was that your number 2, Sam?
There's one.
Okay. So, offense got stale. And probably following up on what you're saying about Rashee Rice, I don't think that he or Xavier Worthy in full capacity would have changed what happened to this offense, whether they played a full season or not. I think this offense had reached its probably max capacity probably in 2022. And for the last 3 years, it's been broken. They just had excuses to not address it. 3 years ago, it was, well, guys who were getting hurt. I mean, the receivers were not getting it done. They were dropping balls. And then last year was injuries and, guys aren't there that we need to be there. And this was the year when you can say Rashee Rice would have helped, but I think ultimately by the end of the season when they had to win games and those players were on the field, they played plenty of games where guys were there. The offensive line was healthy. The receivers were there. The running backs were out there, and they didn't look good. And I know that they had that stretch where they were playing really good football. They've gotten a lot of mileage out of that. At the end of the day, they were playing teams that weren't very good or were beat up. And so when it came right down to it, and you see it now when you watch the postseason, you watch the San Francisco 49ers out there with just Demarcus Robinson and, backup here and there, and they're still putting up numbers.
Very valid point. They did have Brock Purdy. The quarterback part is the equipment. But I'm with you. That was the shocking thing about the final 3 games is just how completely inept. I mean, it just showed how much Mahomes was. It wasn't like the positives weren't really the scheme. They were Mahomes. And without him, they were completely impotent. I agree. That's a whole – and that one I had, that was going to be my next one as well. So that one comes off the board before I could get to it. So, Sam, what do you got for number 2?
Thinking that they had enough at running back in the offseason. And it was something that the 3 of us sat here and talked about throughout the summer, into training camp, when the season opened. I remember us 3 ranking going into training camp, what was this team's biggest need? And we all had running back or pass rush number 1 and 2. And so this was a foreseeable thing. And you talked about Mahomes' last 3 games. My takeaway from the last 3 games was they asked Patrick Mahomes to do way too much. Why did they ask Patrick Mahomes to do way too much? Because their running game could help him none this year. I mean, they were 25th in yards before contact, 25th in yards after contact. They were 32nd in avoided tackles. And I've talked plenty about the effect this had, but they faced the most light boxes in the NFL. 47.4% of their carries came against light boxes this year. There was no reaction to play action, as Andy Reid had mentioned. What all of this did, the effect of all of this, was made Patrick Mahomes' job as difficult a job as there was quarterback in the NFL this year, because there was no, at one point this year, Matt Nagy called the running game a quarterback's best friend. They operated without his best friend throughout the whole season because they didn't have another option. And that's what those last 3 games showed is why did other teams win with backup quarterbacks? Why did other teams still move the ball with backup quarterbacks? Because they had other options. This team didn't have another option because they thought heading into the offseason that they had enough at running back, and it was incredibly clear they did not have a starting running back.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if there are more coaching changes, if there's an offensive line coaching change, how much does that maybe change the dynamics and stuff? I think there's going to be a lot, but you are right, Sam. I mean, a lot of teams, their number 2 back far exceeds what the Chiefs had at number 1. I don't know if I want to put this in there. I mean, I guess I will. Let me look and make sure I think I've got enough. I don't want to run out because you never need 15, so I have 12. So I want to make sure I have enough here. Yeah, I do. I mean, I'll throw this out there because I could have tried to twist it around and put it, but Elijah Mitchell for $2.5 million. You know what? Actually, I'll hold up.
Has the pick been made?
Yeah.
Did he turn in the pick?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Did he turn in the pick or what?
I absolutely did not turn in the pick.
Can Jeff beat him to the podium now? Or
that felt like a Felix, like an FAU type pick and a Duke Uzama type pick there.
No.
I'm just reaching here.
I'll come back around because I don't want to do it, and you guys can beat me to that. That's fine if you want to go down that road. Because I could have lumped it in there, but I think I might actually need it the way the last couple of picks have gone. So I'm going to hold off on it, but you can beat me to it because I'm going to say this. I'll tease this before we hear from our friends again, and that is, I could save this one. I don't think you guys are gonna pick this if we did all 15 of yours, but I'm going to pick it next because I think it is really, really important. Right? Like it's supposed to be an importance, not get my 5 that I want in there. So I'll do a different one next. We come back after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, finishing up round number 2. I will go with this. The Chiefs avoiding void years. This is not like they made a mistake. I think a lot of our reasons are like, hey, they should have done this, they should have done that, they should have done this. You can make a case for why they don't do it. They're one of, I think, 4 or 5 teams that have no money in void years. I think there's a stat out there about, and I can look it up. I think the Eagles have, over $200 million tied up in the void years, if I'm not mistaken. Hang on, I gotta make a note here. I forgot something I gotta do. But let me see. I was looking at it, and they have, the Eagles are over 200 million. And so, like, that is a big part of how they're putting all the talent together. Like, when you just push everything off and say, well, it'll be a cold winter one day, but not today. That does give you the ability to work around Rashee Rice being down, to work around,
sorry to interrupt, Stern, but before after the Super Bowl, they had $390 million in void years, and second most was 204.
The Eagles? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you I wanted to get, because I had a chart, and I guess I was looking at
And the Chiefs at that point, after the Super Bowl last year, were 28th at $1.86 million. And it was DeAndre Hopkins, whenever they traded for him, they absorbed his. So $390 million for the Eagles, 1.86 for the Chiefs.
I mean, that is a huge part of it. Again, it's not to villainize. Like, and I do wonder. I mean, big picture. I won't spend much time on this, but if the league starts operating the way the Eagles do across the board, it will spell the end of the dynasties, because you'll have to do it in waves. You'll have to say, okay, we've got this 3-year window, and now this is where we blow it all up and we void everything back. Then we're going to have nothing later on. I don't think that's healthy for players. I think at some point, some of these void years, they're going to come up with some new rules, because I don't think it's healthy for players to be in that situation. It sounds great initially, but it means teams are going to be completely out on free agency and things like that, and be cutting guys, putting guys on the street that shouldn't be out there. But it's huge. Like the Chiefs, like it is a way to buy your way around mistakes. You know, we talk about in baseball, the Royals have this payroll, and if a $20 million player goes down, they don't really have a way around it. The Yankees, with a $300-some-odd million payroll, can buy their way around it. That's kind of what void years are. They're manipulating the system to be able to carry a payroll that's significantly bigger than what the salary cap is. And it's all legal. I'm not trying to villainize the Eagles, and I think they will pay for it in the long haul. They're showing everybody the way to do it, to maximize it as best you can in the now. We'll see how painful it ends up being in the future, but the Chiefs do not take part in that. That is a Clark Hunt approach. The fact that
ownership,
it's an ownership approach. And, you know, that does handcuff what they can do. And so if you come into a year and go, all right, we're short at running back, well, you know, void years would have given you a chance to go out and spend some more money on some other players. They're not able to do it. So I think that was a major one. Did anybody have that? The fact that they don't use void years on
No, that's not on my list.
No, I think it's a great.
In a format, it's private personnel decision, contracts, salary cap management. It was on there, but not in that specific framing of it.
I actually think that I'm not saying it's irrelevant now. I think it's even more relevant next year, because next year's the year where a lot of these contracts really escalate, including the Mahomes deal.
But I think if they can get through it, if Mahomes stays healthy, if Mahomes stays effective, I think when they come through 26 and 27 and 28, they'll be in a better position, and people will be really thrilled that they don't have those void years, because I think they'll be back able to be a lot more flexible when it comes to what their payroll is. All right, let's start round 3. Jeff, where do you go for
recap the initial 2, Soren?
The initial first 2 rounds. Jeff had number 1, stars didn't play like stars. Sam collapsed in the fourth quarter frequently. I said Rashi Rice gets himself suspended for 6 games. That was round 1. Round 2, Jeff went with the offense got stale. Sam said thinking they had enough at running back going into the season was a mistake. And I said the Chiefs refusing to use void years to build their roster. It kept them from being able to fix a lot of their problems. So now we begin round 3, Jeff.
This is probably going to consume some different topics or factors, but I said lack of playmakers. And that goes all around the board. And so I think I've talked about Rashee Rice, you know, some big drops in some big games. Xavier Worthy, who I think is becoming a lost cause, can't catch a pass and stay in bounds when it should be pretty simple process. The running back Sam mentioned, but I would go to the other side of the ball to defense. I mean, very few turnovers forced. I can't remember the last time they had a pick 6. The last time they had a.
Are you going to give like 9 things here, Jeff? Or
some of these are on our list. Yeah, you're taking everything. You're sweeping everything under this category.
5 topics off the board here?
No, I'm just okay. Lack of playmakers. You see the point I'm making here, and the return game counts too, as far as not really having anybody who could actually make a difference in that area. So that's. So it's not just consumed to like just, you know, receivers and backs. I think just across the board, they need more playmakers.
Ain't nobody arguing with that stuff. I mean, how could you? I mean, yeah, it's been an issue for sure. Yeah, that's a frustrating one. Sam, where are you going to go?
Well, let me ask you guys this: what is the money down in the NFL?
Third down.
I'm assuming
third down.
Yeah,
third downs is my third one. this team was terrible on third downs, and so much attention got devoted to the defense being bad on third downs, which it was. They were 29th in the NFL defensively in third down percentage. And third and long, this is a really bizarre stat, by the way. Third and long this year, they were 29th in sack rate, despite being first in time to pressure the quarterback. First in time to pressure, quickest time to pressure the quarterback on third and long, 29th in actual sack rate, which to me tells you that teams saw what was coming with Steve Spagnuolo's blitzes this year. But they were so bad defensively on third down that it took away from the attention on how bad they were offensively on third down. In Mahomes' first year as a starting quarterback, they were second in the NFL in third down percentage. His second year in 19, they're first. Then they're third, then they're first, then they're second, then they're sixth, then they're second. This year, they were 22nd in the NFL in third downs. Like, you want to look at why this offense could drive the ball and looked so many plays per drive. It's because they weren't good late in the season on those money downs on third down. Like, that's why you don't score in the red zone as frequently as you'd like to score. I mean, there's so much that is an effect, a trickle-down effect of not being good on third downs. And they were fortunate that they were really good on fourth down with Kareem Hunt on fourth and short, because otherwise 6 and 11 looked bad. 6 and 8 with the starting quarterback looked bad. They could have been even worse if they weren't effective on fourth downs the way they were.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, yeah, the fourth downs bailed them out a lot because they were really good at that. I mean, that's a great point about it. But yeah, I mean, at third down, Jeff, I mean, that's just if you're not good on third down, you're not good. I mean, that speaks to the erosion of the team overall. You know, good teams, like what do the T-shirts used to say for the Chiefs? Third and whatever. Didn't matter what the yardage was.
Yeah,
they could go get it.
Yeah,
they're far from that right now. All right, I'm trying to think where I want to go with this one, but I am going to say just the overall lack of a pass rush. But I think we know that's a big one. I'll leave it kind of generic on that because I think there's other offshoots of this that can be there, but there are a lot of ways to get there. And Sam, you touched on it. One, the blitzes weren't nearly as effective. They couldn't get any pressure with all four. Chris Jones is starting to lose his ability to really wreck a game. They gave a bunch of money to George Karlaftis, and he was solid, and he got pressures, but the sack total, you need to get the quarterback on the ground. And, you know, I think especially when they spent a lot of time at St. Joe talking about, you know, Steve Spagnuolo's always say, well, you know, I look at pressures. We want to affect the quarterback. Agreed. But everybody else to a man talked about turning pressures into sacks. They knew that it was pressures are good, but sacks are completing the job. And they needed to do a better job. So they had it as a focal point. It was clearly something that they were absolutely trying to accomplish. They definitely didn't do it. And I think that was a killer. And even though defensively they were 6th in points, 10th in yards, you know, still respectable, you know, they weren't dominant. And part of the reason why the Chiefs were, you know, had so few possessions was they took a long time when they had the ball, but it also took a while for the Chiefs to get people off the field. They had to kind of give and bend and get back to their own 20. So that limited how much they had to have the ball, I think, all around. They just could not get the quarterback on the ground, and that's a major problem. It's been a problem for a couple of years, and it was a big problem this year.
Yeah, I think, you know, you could go different ways with pass rush. I got more specific on some, but I won't use one of them. I'll just tell you a stat that I found really telling this year, which is the Chiefs used to be really effective when blitzing. And in 2023, they were 4th in the NFL in EPA per dropback when blitzing. In 2024, their defense was 7th in the NFL in EPA per dropback when blitzing. This year, they were 22nd in the NFL in EPA per dropback when blitzing. They had the 3rd highest blitz rate in the NFL, yet they were 22nd in the NFL in pressure rate on blitzes this year. So that's, to me, something. I mean, when you go through self-evaluation as a team, I think a lot of it's personnel and scheme related. To me, like, Steve Spagnuolo's concentration need to be, why did my blitzes stop working? Because I was one of the best coordinators in the league at dialing up blitzes and confusing offensive lines and confusing quarterbacks, and 2 straight years, 4th and 7th in the league. And now they're 22nd. Like, that is a precipitous drop off. And that's what plays into what you said about the pass rush overall and what I said about being really bad on third downs. Like when your blitzes aren't getting home and your Steve Spagnuolo and you don't have a secondary pass rush to get home with 4, it's miraculous when you think about that this team finished 6th in the league in points allowed, knowing that.
Yeah, I honestly I need to go back and watch all these games and figure out how they did it, what it was. I mean, a big part of it was the goose egg they hung on the Raiders because you just don't really get shutouts.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of the equation. All right, we will get to round number 4. We got 2 more rounds to go. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's get to round number 4, Jeff. Where are you going with round number 4?
Well, you just stole my last pick with the pressure. I'm surprised it didn't go earlier, but I've got bad drafting. Okay. And they've had a lot of success with the 21 class and the 22 class. You start looking at those last 3 classes they've had, it's alarming that this year Kingsley Suamataia might have been the most encouraging player out of those 3 classes. And I know Josh Simmons has shown promise, but he disappeared for a month. I think that counts when you're evaluating somebody. And he really was the only guy in this class who really you could look at and say he was somebody who was a contributor. And so you start going through the list. I put Rashee Rice in there as well because he's had a lot of issues and he was suspended, and he's, the things you mentioned, Xavier Worthy. 12
games in 2 years for Rashee Rice. Yeah.
And so this has been building. And so you talk about lack of playmakers and offense growing stale and stars not playing like stars. It helps when your lesser players, your younger players are doing things. I sent you guys a text when the Chargers were playing the Patriots. Their first pass went to a rookie. I'm like, wow, you can do that in this league. You're watching other teams around the league relying on key players who were, first year, second year, third year players. This team should be able to do that. And I'm tired of the excuse of, well, they pick late. A lot of good players get picked in the 30s and the 60s, day 2, day 3. And they're just not, they haven't succeeded in that area.
I mean, I will defend them a little bit in the sense that, again, PFF's not the end all be all, but just on some of the grades. I mean, we're talking about the overall draft, right? Not just last year's draft.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Karlaftis, number 22, he was taken at the bottom of the first round. He's number 22 at the edge rushers. Brian Cook was up to number 4 at safeties. He was in the second round. We know what Trent McDuffie does, but Jalen Watson, 13th amongst corners.
I'm saying I said after post 22. I said 23, 24, 25.
Right. No Williams, 16. Yeah. I mean, I think your point is valid, but I think your point is very valid because yes, they've got hits, but they have misses like everyone else. But it's like when you are picking low, you have to throw quantity at it, and they don't do it. When you're low, the trade up thing doesn't work. And so I think it's not just the drafting; it's their ability to massage the draft, their ability to work the draft and gather assets within the draft,
or not massage the draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and also, like someone mentioned, Noah Williams can play. I'm not saying he can't play. People are like, they're not playing him. So whatever they're doing, they're not on the field.
That's helping. And we could get into different angles, but like he obviously didn't have the confidence of his coach to put him on the field enough. So yes, I think it's 100% valid. I have no problem with it being one of the reasons. I just think there's a little more nuance to it than just bad draft pick. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think The 23 draft, I mean, especially if there is an unknown with Rashee Rice, that draft could end up looking really bad. Um, and that's the draft where I think a lot of times you look to your third year guys to help. I still think this last year's draft class is going to wind up looking pretty good. If you get a starting left tackle out of a draft, that's a good draft when you're picking in the 30s. And I think they've got other contributors. I think Noah Williams is a starting player. I think Norman Lott is going to be a starting player. Gelati, I think, is going to be a contributor. Brashard Smith is at least a guy on your roster. I mean, I think this last year's draft is going to look okay. That 23 draft could wind up looking pretty darn bad. It's possible that after that, heading into next year, they have one player on their roster from 2023, and that's the fourth year of a rookie contract.
Yeah, that's an issue. There's no doubt. I mean, it absolutely belongs on the list. But like I said, I just wanted to add a little nuance to it. Sam, who do you got? What do you got? Number 4.
Number 4. Which way do I want to go here? I'm going to pick the biggest play of the year because I want to put a play, single play on here.
I've got several plays on here too.
So I want to say the pick 6 in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Because that was a 12.7 point swing and a tight game. And I wrote about this after that game, but the Chiefs were 28-0 when totaling at least 375 yards under Patrick Mahomes and allowing fewer than 350. Getting at least 375, allowing under 350, 28-0. They not only got 375 in that game, they got 475 in that game. They not only held them under 350, they held them 319, 476 to 319. They absolutely dominated that game in Jacksonville, and they lost it. And it's because of that pick 6. And Soren, I totally agree with your point on things having a trickle-down effect and wondering how the rest of the season goes. I wonder how different the rest of the season could be if they did not have that individual play. And instead, they win that game. And then what happens? The reason I wonder that is because every big game afterwards that this team played, they lost. Every time they had their backs against the wall and they talked about, okay, now's when the real character of the team shows up, they lost that game. They went 0-8 against playoff teams, 0-7 against the AFC playoff field. And I just wonder, it seemed like a team that struggled under pressure in games. That was my number one item on this list in fourth quarter. And they struggled from week to week when they had their backs against the wall. So I just wonder if you didn't have your backs against the wall because you won that game, that suddenly becomes what, a 4-game winning streak? Was it or a 5-game winning streak? Because you beat Baltimore, then you win that game, you win 3 games in a row. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. And I just think the season could potentially look quite a bit different if you don't have that pick 6 there.
It's on my list.
6 in a row, by the way. It would have been the Giants, Ravens, that one, and the 3 they did win. They could have won 6 in a row.
Yeah. I definitely think that was massive play. And I think there's 2. I think that's the biggest one. I think you picked the right biggest one. If not, I've got another one that I'll probably throw out. We'll see what happens. I have 3 that I really want to get to, so we'll see where we go. But I am going to say that, look, if you go into a year and you know that you're a little challenged talent-wise, which they had to know, one, they didn't have Rashi Rice for 6 games, and when injuries start happening, you cannot have penalties. And they had penalties everywhere. So I've got penalties as number 4 for me, because when you know that you're not the explosive team that you were, when you know you cannot consistently sack the quarterback, what you can't do is give things away. The special teams were a disaster when it came to penalties and botching field position all the time. And you need to play the field position game. And they botched it all the time with penalties on special teams, penalties on the offensive line. It was a really rough year to watch them with the penalties and know that they just couldn't overcome things. And they had big plays called back. Right now off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and think, but I know there was a play that's set up the Jacksonville pick 6 had a completion, down to the 2? I can't remember. Was it to Kareem Hunt, I think, on a little running back out of the backfield, and he gets tackled at the 2. There's a Juwan Taylor penalty that brings it back. I think he was lined up wrong. That brings it back, and the Jaguar pick 6 play, I think, comes on the next play. And so the penalties were a killer for this team. And whether they're mentally tired and fried, from all the long games that they played, whether the coach doesn't have their ear anymore, whether they got a bunch of entitled guys now. I don't know what it is, but the penalties were an absolute killer for this team.
I don't know. I guess this would have been after week 13 that I tried to put a data point on this. And what I had come up with that after week 13, because it's just December 4th, they led the NFL at that point with 29 holding flags, which there was a study once that said that had the second highest. That was the penalty that the second highest effect on EPA was holding. They had 29 of them leading the NFL. At that point, they were second in the NFL in turning one set of first downs into another set of first downs or a touchdown. You get 1 1st and 10, you eventually get another 1st and 10, or you just score a touchdown. They were second in the NFL with 79% convert. That's called series conversion rate. On series in which they had holding, it dropped to 40%. So they were half as effective in turning one set of first downs into another set of first downs when they got a holding, and they led the league in holdings. And then I had gone through and said, okay, what did they do in their losses? And there were like 12 of those instances where they did not end up getting first downs and losses. That's 12 times where you're punting. We're typically at 80% chance of getting another first down instead, which is 9 extra punts. And this team at that time had lost every game by 1 score, and they had punted 9 extra times. I mean, that's basically 9 turnovers down the field in 1-score games where they'd lost like 6 1-score games. I mean, I agree with you, sir, and that belongs in the list. It had a massive effect on their season.
All right, we start round 5 with you, Jeff. Where do you want to go?
They faced better coaching in the division and around.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And that's always been an underrated part of their success, that Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Toub had all the answers and everybody else was trying to catch up. This is the year when they caught up. And, Sam mentioned everybody saw what Spagnuolo had coming on the blitz. And I've talked about the offense getting stale and alluded to the special teams. This was the year when – and it started in week 1, to be honest with you. Steve Spagnuolo was saying, yeah, Greg Roman got us. I thought they were going to run the ball down our throats, and they came out throwing it. And we never caught up. And you look at some of these 1-score games, these coaches, the Sean Paytons, the Jim Harbaughs, even Jacksonville. You saw what Liam Cohen did with that team down the road. At that time, it wasn't that significant or that impressive. Looking back on it, like that was a well-coached team. You're making that big pick six because you're scouting it out, you're seeing it on film, you're practicing for it, and it comes and you make the play. The teams they faced knew how to make the plays when it mattered most. And even when they had teams like Houston coming in late and the Chargers and they had to get wins, they just couldn't get it because those teams just knew how to execute better and they were better prepared. And I think that was a big, big factor in what happened to this team.
First game of the season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huge. And really, I mean, a lot of these are really big. I mean, like that is a giant one. It's almost like a 2-game penalty. Like your 15-2s immediately become at best 13-4s. Because you're not just sweeping your division. I mean that maybe is number 1 of all of them. Like if you'd have made that 1-1 in this draft, I wouldn't have argued with you because it changes the dynamics of everything. All right, Sam, where are you going in round?
I love how Jeff's the one who does put him on the list, and then we're criticizing for having him too low on the list.
Right? Yeah,
he's not on our list at all.
I just think he's dead on. Well, because I forgot to put it on the list.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to celebrate what he did because I'm looking. It did not make my list, and I'm like.
I think it does in other ways, right? I mean, I think when we talk about the blitzes not getting home, I mean that's one. When I talk about the Chiefs not being good on third downs, I mean that certainly applies there. But you're right. I mean, it's an overarching theme as well.
But I mean, I think especially when one other thing on that point, like when we talk about the snowballing, when you do have an injury and you have a penalty and you have a suspension and then they can also get you. Like that's what it is. Like we said at the beginning of this, what did we learn? Well, it's a lot of things. It takes a lot of things, right, to bring down Patrick Mahomes.
Yep, I agree.
And I think so. You've got all these other things, but then when you got guys that know how to, put their foot on the wound and step on it and really make you feel, oh, Rashee Rice in there? No problem. I ain't got to cover your slap ass out there. I'm coming at you. I'm going to knock your quarterback around. Like they identify where all these other problems are, and they make you pay the ultimate price for each one of those problems. I'm with you. I think you're right, Sam. That does show itself in a lot of other places, but it needs to be one of the subjects. So I like that one a lot. So anyway, all right, Sam, what do you got?
Number 5, no big plays. Everything was hard this year.
Do we have lack of playmakers?
I said lack of playmakers.
Playmakers.
This is an offshoot of it.
Okay.
They had. Well, I was looking this up before the podcast because this isn't just to me like your talent, because they were one of only 4 teams in the NFL this year that did not have a defensive or special teams touchdown. Those are huge in games. And by the way, if they had either of them, it would have been the biggest play of their season, because their biggest play of the year was the 6.6 EPA. And I quizzed you guys on this on Friday. We hardly even remembered this play. Just the fluky interception on the tip pass that Mike Dana had.
Yeah.
A defensive ends interception, which turned out at the time it was a big play. It turned out not to be that big of a play when you shut out the Washington Commanders in the second half anyway. But like, that's their biggest play of the year. And like
on defense, yeah.
Either. No, that's their biggest play.
Okay.
That's their biggest play overall this year. And to not have a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown, they were 14th in the NFL in explosive pass plays, which is supposed to be their strength. They were 32nd, dead last in the NFL in explosive rushing yards. Like I said, everything was hard for this team this year. They never pressed the easy button a single time in 17 games this year.
Sam, to that point, it's not just stars that make the big plays, right? I remember the Denver game in Denver, no Patrick Surtain, and Jaquan McMillan's out there looking like an all-pro corner. He has 2 sacks and a huge interception, right? They got a running back who, in Dallas, who Chris Jones tries to improvise and go around a hole, opens a gaping hole. The guy runs 43 yards for a touchdown. That kind of stuff happens, as you're saying. When your star players do it, it's great, but when your role players do it, it's even bigger.
I can't, like, even if you took like the statistical analysis out of this, which obviously mine was baked into everything I said there, what even felt like the biggest play of the season for these guys? I'd probably say that Tyquan Thornton catch in New York, but you could counter by saying they were winning the game. Yep. Russell Wilson was going to have to drive down the field and tie that game for the Giants if they don't make that. And like, that still probably feels like the biggest play. I mean, you could say Patrick Mahomes backed up against his own end zone, completes like a 35-yard pass to Rashee Rice against the Colts. But like, those are big plays. Those are not exceptionally big plays. Like, those should not be what we're listing at the end of a 17-game. The Jets had bigger EPA plays this year. The Jets did than what the Chiefs had, because they returned special teams, 2 special teams punts for touchdowns this year.
My final one, are we going to give like some of ours that just missed as well?
Sure.
Well, I'm torn here. The 2 that I think, I think should be on this list, and I can only put one of them on, is injuries, right? Like, I do get it. The Chargers had injuries. They still made their way into the playoffs. And then they also got humbled in the postseason. I mean, they do matter, right? I think they do matter. They were not so injured that you could look like when you lose both your tackles, like the Chargers did. They even lost their 3rd tackle for a while. And the Chiefs did too, as well. I understand. And when you lose Patrick Mahomes, all bets are off. But we know that they were already out before Patrick Mahomes went down. For all practical purposes, they were already out. So you're supposed to be able to overcome injuries, right? But they did have injuries in some key spots, and Simmons leaving and all those different things, I think, are a major part of the equation, right? That I was hoping one of you would take that, because I know, again, it doesn't villainize anybody. Nobody's held responsible, but injuries did affect this team. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And you mentioned like the Xavier Worthy, when Rashi Rice is out, compounded that when that happened. So I do think that's big, but I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with the Kelce drop catch at the goal line. That would have been a touchdown.
This was 6.
This is back to Philly?
Yeah, all the way back to Philly, where it goes up into the air and ends up being returned halfway down the field. And it's not just that. I'll call it the Kelce. Whoops.
I love how Sam had to clarify which one you're talking about.
Well, I had combined Kelsey's drops, and that was going to be like 6th on my list because he also drops the pass against the Texans.
That the one that the helmet that ends up sealing the game. Yes,
he dropped 3 passes this year that wound up being interceptions.
Yes, I'm going to call it the Kelce bobble, INT versus the Eagles.
So there
and the complete not give a shit about making a tackle. Because
by the way, that was their best play of the year. That's what you guys should have answered. The Josh Simmons tackle was actually their best play of the
year. Yeah, a lineman made it. Yeah.
Because to me, it was that play demonstrates the problem with the psyche of the team. One, it was a critical play. They were going to take the lead, I think, go up 17-13 on the Eagles.
Their win probability at that point was 58% before the play. Doesn't even include what it would have been with the touchdown.
Right. And so they were going to go up 17-13. Instead, Philly gets the ball, and they get it. I think they ran it back past midfield, but there was a penalty on the return that dragged it back to maybe the 30-something. But they would take that and go down and score. But it was – I don't know if you remember, but Kelce made almost no effort to make a tackle. Like he had just botched it, and he kind of jogged over there. And that play to me set the tone for this season. Like, we're too cool for school. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we lost in Brazil, but it was a weird week. It was in Brazil. Don't worry. But yeah, we lost, but I dropped the ball. I never dropped the ball. He dropped the ball several more times, but 2 more critical ones. And there wasn't I just screwed this up. I'm going to make sure that this guy comes down. He just kind of jogged in that direction. And thank God Josh Simmons, showed the heart that he did. That, to me, demonstrated that it's great that Travis Kelce got himself back in shape and he was a better player, but the give a crap meter with 3 rings and 5 conference championships and every other positive, I don't think the give a crap meter is there with Travis Kelce. I think he likes playing football. I think he's really good at football. I think at one point there was a patch, but and this is not to villainize him. It's tough. It's tough to have that burning desire. The Michael Jordans of the world are not mentally healthy. Okay? Like, to be that way is not mentally healthy. So I don't wish that on anybody, to have like a hatred and feel like crap in the midst of having one of the great careers of all time. So he's just a well-adjusted guy. But that also, it just set the tone for the whole team, in my opinion. Like, that's how they played all year, was like him after mistake, and then let's just kind of jog after it.
They played all year as if they had time to catch up until they ran out of time.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. All right. What else didn't make the list for you? Anything else you want to mention that as a others receiving votes, Jeff?
Can I just say before Jeff goes, there is one I am stunned he did not put on his list.
Okay.
I cannot believe you didn't just have Chris Jones on your list.
He was on that. He was just short. He was 7th.
Others receiving votes.
He was 7th. And Chris Jones was definitely the Chris Jones contract, not just Chris Jones, but Chris Jones contract.
Well, and there's one. Sorry to interrupt the other one because I want to say there's one other that I'm stunned all 3 of us did not put on the list because I just expected you guys to take care of this one. But the Fulton contract, spending on Fulton over other positions like running back, like edge rusher, like I'm stunned that didn't appear. And I literally just had it buried because I thought one of them's going to put this on their list.
I felt like when I did the void years, I didn't want this all to be about money. Yeah. And so when I did the void years, I thought I was kind of saying like, okay, you did these other things. You could have bought your way out with void years, but you don't do it. But I absolutely think that's part of it. I mean, I started to go down the road of Elijah Mitchell. Like, well, I'm going to put that. Deontay Williams went for $3 million to Dallas. No. Rico Dowdell went for 2.75 to Carolina. Elijah Mitchell 2.5 to the Chiefs. J.K. Dobbins a little over 2 to the Broncos. Kenneth Gainwell went for 1.8 to the Steelers. All 4 of those guys, all in that same neighborhood, were better. I mean, how could you not be better than Elijah Mitchell? I like that. The Joey Bosa not having money to be able to make an offer for Joey Bosa. If you go offer Joey Bosa, he's coming here. Like when the Chargers walk on him, he doesn't want to take 2 shots. If you just offer the same money as Buffalo, he's coming to Kansas City over Buffalo. Yeah. No one wants to go to Buffalo over almost anywhere, right? And so that there's a lot of the roster construction, the monetary allocation that I think is a part of why.
Yeah. Well, I'd fold the Trey Smith contract into that. I'd fold letting Justin
that
Reed
down
walk
there
into
too.
that. I mean, it was all personnel. But the one thing the one that was coming for 6 for me that I couldn't get in was losing to Philadelphia in the Super Bowl was a huge factor. The mystique was not there anymore when the season started, and it was apparent.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And
you should have put that in your list.
That would have been way
we
better.
only had 5. I had pretty good ones.
Yeah,
I got a strong team. I like my team right now.
But that's creative. That's creative, though. I like that one.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. Too bad we can't.
Too bad it didn't make the list. Yeah, too bad it didn't make the list. Yeah.
That's right. It could have been my 2. He crapped on my 5. It should have been 1. That could have been 2.
No, I like your list. I think your list is really strong too. The 457 yards allowed to Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. What happened in that game? Like, I don't understand how that game got so far away from them. I mean, they used to be the king of the short game.
I actually had something else in Dallas on my list. The 4th down decisions in Dallas.
Yes.
I had on my list. I had drops. Really was my 6th. I had all the drops because they dropped that game in Dallas. They had all the. Remember I'd done the EPA on the drops against the Texans. It cost them 10 points against the Texans alone. I think 36-year-old Travis Kelce leading your team in targets, catches, yards, touchdowns, and yards from scrimmage is not a recipe for offensive success. A 36-year-old doing that, being your best option. Harrison Butker for September struggles, I think belongs on the list. And the other ones, I had several that you guys had as far as penalties, and Chris Jones.
How about this? I mean, like, the pass rush is part of it, but they had 14 takeaways. Only 3 teams had less.
Yeah, that's definitely on the list. Yeah.
I mean,
no one in the AFC had less, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that is the inability to take the football away is a people. I had somebody say that's a hallmark of a Steve Spagnuolo defense. I'm like, I think it's a hallmark of how Steve Spagnuolo has to play defense because he can't attack the quarterback.
Yeah,
right. I think that's what that is. I don't think Steve Spagnuolo's designing it to not take the football away, but they just don't pressure the quarterback enough to get the.
Well, I think that is folded into Jeff's point about playmakers. Yeah. Like, there's not a lot of fear. Their defense is really sound. Like, they do play this no weak link defense. That's why they finished sixth in points allowed. It's why they finished 10th in yards allowed. Like, they had a good defense this year, but Chris Jones is supposed to be that guy who causes turnovers with his pressure, with his quick pressures, and they didn't force quarterbacks into bad decisions this year.
Well, and on the drafting, like, I had one of mine was FAU. Just the drafting of FAU, because that, if you hit on that, if you just get another George Karlaftis, I think that's enough with Chris Jones even playing at the level that he's at right now. That's enough to make that pass rush more, to get more. And when I looked back at it, he has 3 sacks, which is 36th in this draft class, and he was the 32nd player overall. I'd have to look back on defensive linemen where he was taken. Byron Young of the Rams went at pick 77. And he has 27 and a half sacks, including 12 and a half this year. He went in the 3rd round, pick 77. Okay. And then at pick 54 in the 2nd round, Tuli Pelotu has 26 sacks. And so there were guys there, and they missed them.
Well, how many sacks did the Rams alone get out of that draft? Because Byron Young has 27 and a half. Kobe Turner's got 24.
Look at Seattle's defensive line. Hey, how many stars you got on Seattle's defensive line?
They had Deshaun Johnson get 5, so they're up to 60 sacks from that draft alone from the Rams.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, that draft was because I was looking at that last year when we were doing how they were built and everything about it's insane how.
And those are picks 77, 89, and 259 that they got. What did I say? 27 and a half, 24. So it's 51 and a half plus the other 5, 56 and a half. Out of 2 late thirds and a late 7th round pick
in 3 years.
That's one draft.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
that's just the 3 years of playing. Yes. I mean, that's the FA. That is the FAU draft. And Will McDonald is 5th on that list at 21 and a half. And I think a guy that the Chiefs thought could
Will McDonald went before they picked, though.
Yes, but I was going to
15.
say
Oh.
he went 15th, and I think the Chiefs building was stunned by that because I think there was some hope that maybe that could be the guy on draft night.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that didn't go well for him on that draft night.
Yeah.
Don't have the draft in Kansas City again because it didn't seem to work. That's one of the morals of that story for sure. Listen, if you want to support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, do it by supporting our great sponsors. If you own or manage a business, parking lots don't have liability issues in your parking lot. One contractor, all things parking lot. That's GAN asphalt and concrete. Simple striping and signage and bumpers to the most complicated jobs, including building a parking lot from scratch. They do it all. They've been doing it for more than 30 years. Find them online at GANasphalt.com and our friends at North Lane Injury Law, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. Google 5-star rated, serving KC for more than 40 years. If you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us right here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.